let's talk about Pinocchio and Robert Zemeckis. Alright, so hey everybody, Bloodman Bobby here. So we're here to talk about yet another Disney live action remake that is in the works, and this time it is Pinocchio. And this project has been trudging along and trying to find a sort of permanent director to help out. And as of right now, the current director that's in talks for Pinocchio is none other than Robert Zemeckis, who you might know from movies like Back to the Future, Forrest Gump, The Polar Express, Castaway, and Death Becomes Her, movies like that. Variety says that he's currently in talks with Disney to direct in terms of other crew members. Once again, looking at my iPad to make sure I get their names right. Andrew Milano and Chris Weitz are supposedly producing the movie, and White will write the script, if I am pronouncing his name right. Interestingly, Paddington director Paul King was tapped to direct, but left the project for some unknown reason. And in terms of who's going to be in the movie, none of those details are finalized. Tom Hanks was at one point tapped to play Geppetto, but then also took off. I honestly can't really see Hanks playing the role of Geppetto, but so be it. He has left the project, although I'm sure some speculate that maybe he will come back if he's supposedly going to direct the movie. Zemeckis is actually currently in post-production on his latest movie, which is an adaptation of Roald Dahl's book, The Witches, which I'm very interested to see. I got close to finishing up reading The Witches back when I was a kid. I sort of remember how the story goes, but that's a discussion for another video. So how do I personally feel if Zemeckis does end up, directing Pinocchio, which, it's still not exactly, set in stone. This is not a deal that's finalized by any means. He's just currently, it sounds like Disney is, asking, hey, will you consider directing this project? If he does get the job, I'd be very interested to see what Zemeckis does. I really like a lot of the movies he's made. I've seen movies like Back to the Future. That was a whole bunch of fun. And Forrest Gump, really moving movie, and also Polar Express, which I know might be interesting, Disney tapping Zemeckis again, because Zemeckis is kind of infamous for his motion capture movies, which I'd like to think it's just more of a thing where some people will like them, some people don't. But the interesting thing was that at one point he had a motion capture company that was tied to Disney called Image Movies Digital, and they made movies like the Jim Carrey Christmas Carol and the really infamous Mars Needs Moms. So I'm sure people are gonna, bring up that again. I would like to not make connections to that. I know that in the mocap scene, I know that Zemeckis directed Christmas Carol. He didn't direct Mars Needs Moms, but he did direct Polar Express. I mean, that's not something I really want to get into. I just want to get into more of what I know, straight off the bat in terms of Zemeckis and directing something like Pinocchio. And I'm interested to see what he does. I do think that he can technically direct a good Pinocchio movie. And unlike something like the Lion King remake, where I'm like, how is this gonna work as a live action movie, or something like Lilo and Stitch, where I'm just like, it's really unnecessary to bring that to live action cinema. But Pinocchio, I could technically see. I do remember seeing Pinocchio quite a few times as a kid, growing up and watching a lot of Disney movies on home video and VHS tape, and I could remember the story pretty well. I do think it is something that could technically lend itself to the live action cinema. It's actually kind of a creepier movie than I remember. I know that, the movie definitely had, some really, joyous and fun scenes, like the scenes where, Geppetto is playing around, Pinocchio back when he's still a non-talking puppet, and of course Pinocchio sings songs and that's kind of thing. But I will say it's actually kind of a creepier movie than I remember. I remember rewatching scenes like when one of the characters is turned into a donkey, and then there was that one character who I forgot what the context of the conversation, but he says the word boys, and he has like a really like creepy like look in his eyes and really scary looking teeth, and I'm just like, whoa, how did this movie not scare the shit out of me when I was a kid? There were like scenes in Snow White where like I would have to like run and like hide, but like Pinocchio, I don't remember doing all that much. And of course, so I do think that the Disney movie in itself, does lend itself to being in live action cinema. I think I'm taking kind of more of a skeptical approach in this because I'm kind of wondering what are they going to change, with this live action remake. Because with the Disney live action remakes, there's, a lot of them have some really drastic changes from the original. Some of them, the change is kind of inherent because for the most part, Disney doesn't want to, totally, remake the same movie and rehash completely what they do. But it sometimes feels like a lot of the changes aren't, like, super necessary. I mean, a good example of, I've seen, like, for instance, Cinderella, which the Cinderella live-action remake is actually one that I actually kind of like, and I do think it lends itself pretty well to Kenneth Branagh's, style and scope, and just, like, how he really likes to make his movies grandiose. With something like the Beauty and the Beast remake, there are some scenes where I don't think they changed enough of, and it just feels like they're going by the numbers. And then there are scenes in that movie that I just felt were honestly kind of unnecessary, like the scene where Belle and the Beast travel to Paris. I was just like, yeah, okay, we do get some, information on Belle's background, but I'm not really sure if we really needed that and that sort of thing. So in that kind of a case, I'm just really curious to see, what are they going to do. Now, Robert Zemeckis, is a director that I trust, and, I could see him, doing a pretty good job with this, but I'm very curious to see what it is. It is kind of a subjective thing for me, because I know I've been on the record saying I'm really excited to see something like the Hunchback of Notre Dame live action remake, because with something like that, I just think of the really amazing visuals and songs from the original movie, and I'm like, yes, even just, even if they just did a by-the-numbers remake, that in itself would look really grand in the live-action cinema. Whereas with Pinocchio, I do think that the characters and style of the movie can lend itself to the live-action cinema. And yeah, it's fun scenes and even kind of scary scenes in the original Disney movie. But I'm not really sure or if they bring it to live-action cinema. If they did like a by-the-numbers remake of Pinocchio, I think in that case it would be just like, I just feel like I'm just watching the animated movie again. So I'm kind of curious to see what they change. And actually, what kind of comes to mind now, another example, and actually a rather drastic example of like Disney changing something up, where I'm just like, oh, come on, really, Disney, is what's been going on with the Mulan live-action remake, because there have been reports that they're going to change the villain into a witch. And I was like, why are they doing this? And I just feel like that's an example where Disney's trying too hard. Because in something like Mulan, I'm like, why do I have to change Shan Yu up? I know some people think that Shan Yu is like a forgettable Disney villain, because he's just kind of the villain who's like, all he does is, is destroy villages, and there's that scene, where he, attacks Mulan. But I still thought, he was a really intimidating villain. So I'm just like, why does Disney need to change that up? So I'm curious to see. I guess I'm kind of, for this movie in particular, I'm taking more of a fence-sitting approach, just in terms of, I do want to see what Disney does with Pinocchio, but at the same time, I am kind of aware that there are some ways where they can and screw this one up. So let me know your thoughts on the Pinocchio live action remake. Do you think that Zemeckis should take the position if he does end up being the director for this movie? Who would you like to see in the roles of Pinocchio? Leave all those thoughts down below. Until next time, this has been Blood Moon Bobby, and thank you all for watching. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this Blood Moon Bobby video. Like and share the video if you enjoyed it, and feel free to leave a comment. Subscribe to my channel, and ring the bell to get notified when I release my latest videos. Follow me at Blood Moon Bobby on your favorite social media platforms to take part in polls, see my tech tips, and to hear about my video plans. Thanks for watching.